Hey, folks, Dave here. I'm not the commish. I don't know how to change that now. I was using that for my hockey draft last night. We used StreamYard for the draft, so we have a couple people named Dave. So I had to be the commish because I am the commissioner. So we're gonna go with commish right now because I'd have to leave to fix that, and I don't feel like leaving to fix it. Um, but tonight I thought I would come on and maybe I can get rid of that. Let me see if I can get rid of the name. That might be kind of fun. Yeah, I'll just get rid of it. How about that? Makes it easier. Um, anyway, I thought I would come on tonight and talk about something that comes up once in a while. Whether it's on our show or it's on Facebook or Delphi or whatever it is, and it's am I playing it correctly? Okay, and people are always like, asking questions. Did I play this correctly? Did I do this right? Did I do that right? And there's a big, conglomerate of people that want to play the game correctly, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all want to play it right. What's kind of fun or funny or whatever you want to call it is, we've talked to quite a few game developers here on the podcast and on the channel, and interviewed people that have created games, and by and large, just about all of them. In fact, I've even talked to some that haven't been on the show. By and large, most of these game developers will say it, it's funny how people are consumed with playing this with my game 100% correct, and they're like, as long as you're having fun with my game, that's what matters. So they've created a game, they want you to enjoy it, they want you to have fun, and as long as you're doing that, then they've accomplished their goal. Okay, along with selling the game. But there is this obsession, and I'll include myself with that too, as far as trying to play the game perfect as by the rules. Okay, I want to talk about that tonight. As John comes by, I hope I'm feeling good. Well, as you can tell, I'm all stuffed up. So I think it all came back. I had a busy day today. I had to do the draft here late last night. I'm setting up a new season tomorrow, so I was up late last night, and then I was at the rink doing my morning gig, and I had to come home, get the schedule up for tomorrow. I grabbed a quick nap, and then I was back to finishing up. So I ended up working, close to 10 or 11 hours today. I'm pretty tired, and I'm all stuffed up again. So I'm gonna come on early tonight. I was gonna play something, but I'm just too tired to play. So I figured I'd come on and chat and talk about a couple things here that we all can relate to. And then I'm gonna retire early tonight, and I'll listen to YouTube and see who's on later on because it is fun laying in bed. Yeah, I used to listen to AM radio as a kid. When I go to bed, and whether you'd have the ball game or the hockey game or just talk radio on. That's what I used to listen to as a kid. And even as an adult, I like to listen to stuff at night. Sports talk radio, I like to listen to quite a bit. But if somebody's on YouTube playing a game, I'd rather listen to somebody in the community, or go back if they're having a chat or something like that. And I'll go back to old stuff. I was listening to Replay Gamer the other day doing a chat, and then I went back and I listened to the Appa chat that myself, ID, and Tebow had. Oh, and shout out to Tebow, by the way. He's going through a tough time with his family. So, Tebow, I want you to know that we're thinking about you, Ron and I. David C. comes by, and also Sean. Hope I've been well. I've been a little under the weather, but all in all, been okay. I think I got a game Sunday I got to do. I got a little nervous today. I was sitting there talking to somebody on the phone, and I was checking my upcoming schedule. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's a game today. I didn't know I had a game today. They got a home game, and I checked. It was a home game, but it was at another rink as part of a showcase. So technically, they're the home team, but I wasn't contracted for the game. And I was like, good. I don't have to work any extra jobs today. Anyway, let's get right down to it. Okay, let's talk about, am I playing it correctly? And what are you going for? Are you going for perfection so you can play this game exactly right? Or are you going for fun? All righty. And again, the game developers are not the sticklers that you think they are. You might think that you're doing them a disservice by not playing their game correctly, or maybe adding a mod of the whole bit. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There hasn't been one game developer that we've talked to that said, I get mad when people don't play it the right way. None of them say that. They all just say, look, I've created a game. He goes, and they say, I know that most people are not going to play it 100% correctly, because you can interpret rules differently. Sometimes there's gray areas. Sometimes, it's unclear, exactly what to do. And then there's also situations that comes up in games that maybe the rules don't address it all the way through. And that's not for every game. Some games really do a great job of spelling it out, and others give you a general, guideline, and then you go from there. But something always comes up. You're like, what do I do? As Barbara stops by, I see Barbara here today, and John's cutting his 84-85 hockey bones. I almost bought them, but I'm going to wait for them to go to drive-through. I know it's more expensive than drive-through, but by the time you buy them and you print them and you cut them, it's hours and hours. And I used to go that route, and I still do sometimes. Like season ticket, I'll buy PDF. They just print so nice. But something about the hockey ones, they took me forever. So now it's like I'd rather spend the money and save myself the time and get a really nice card to play with. Okay, that's just me. But with the PDF, you can print out the teams you want to. You don't got to print out everybody. So anyway, turning back to the discussion at hand. So there's been times myself that I've gotten real frustrated with games, and it's like because I want to play it right, and I'm at a situation I don't know what to do, and the instructions are a little vague, or maybe I'm reading them wrong, and I tell you, I tend to read things a little different than some people, and I can tell you right now that there's been a handful of games that have revised their rule book because of me. Okay, because I've contacted them and said, here's how I'm interpreting your rule, and they're like, no, that's not it. But then they would say, but I can absolutely see how you would come to that conclusion. And we've all done that. In my hockey league, I'll put out a notice, and I'll be like, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, we're going to take the best 8 guys and blah, 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 blah. And I'll know what I'm talking about. Inevitably, people will come back to me and say, oh, so we're going to do this. I'm like, no, didn't you listen to what I said? And they're like, yeah, I listened to what you said, but this is how I interpret it. And I'm like, you know something? I can see how you would take my words and from a different point of view come up with his conclusion. And so that's what happens to me when I look at somebody's rules is I will look at that, and I don't like to assume. My thing is I don't assume anything in a rule book. Okay. So if you write down, it's a ground ball to short, and you know, how do I know where he's going with the throw? I want to know exactly what's going on with that. I don't want to assume he's going to throw to second or throw to first or whatever it is, and maybe that's a bad example, but I don't like to assume anything. I don't like to say, well, it must be this. I want the rules to tell me that that's what it is, because I don't want to get to a point and say, well, here's what should be done, and here's what they did in this other situation, but it doesn't tell me what if this guy has the puck, or in football, what if this guy has the ball. There's always something. I just read too much into it, and I never assume that what's good for this is good for this. I want to spell it out, and so there's been more than one rule book that's had to go in and clarify something because I pointed out how I interpret it, and they agreed that that's how it could be interpreted. So they would spell it out, and I like that they do that, because now I can go back and look at that rule book, and there's a couple games I play now that they've done that, and I've gone back in. It's like, oh, okay, yep, I wasn't sure about that rule. I remember when I talked about it, and they clarified it now, so we know exactly what's going to happen. So I like that. Let's see, but again, when striving for perfection in the game, when trying to play the game exactly how the rules are written, no ifs, ands, or buts, no assuming anything, this is what happens, and you strive for perfection, are you taking away some of the fun because you're so focused on playing this game exactly how it was written? Are you missing some of the fun? And I'm not saying that you need to cheat and, make something a home run that wasn't supposed to be a home run. It's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is that, sometimes you get to a point, especially in a complex game when there's a lot of things going on, and you screw it up. It's like, oh boy, is this shot blocked? And how do I know what dice to look at on the block shot? Or, where does the puck go? Can I, there's a situation in Hockey Bones where you roll the dice for the shot. There's 4 dice you roll: blue, red, and 2 white. And so the blue and the 2 white are the main driving force of the roll, and the red kind of determines where the puck goes. Usually in Hockey Bones, if you follow that. Now, when I take a shot, and let's say it's a rebound, you'll look at the 4 die, the red, the whites, and the blue, whites, and red. And if it's not in range, okay, if it's not in range, then it can't go in, but it's a rebound. So now you're supposed to look at the red die result and look at the goalie card. It doesn't specify to roll the dice again to get a fresh roll on the red die to see where the rebound went. I'm looking at it as, well, I rolled the dice. It's not in range. So technically, I haven't used the red die yet. The red die's on the table. That's all I need. I don't need to re-roll all 4 just to get the result of the red die and the goalie card. So it doesn't really specify if I'm using the die in the table, or if I can use the die in the table from that first roll, or if I do need to re-roll again. It doesn't specify. It just says the result of the red die. And so, again, that kind of drives me nuts, is because a lot of times I'll be like, well, I'm going to save myself a roll. If I haven't used this die for anything yet, then I'll look at the red die and look at the goalie card, and that determines where the puck goes in the rebound. So that's just kind of one example of the rule book not clarifying where what you need to do for a roll. Now, if it's in range, then you need to roll all 4 again, because now it's a possible goal. And now, so you do need to roll to see what happens on the play. Although, you still don't need the red die. If you haven't used the red die yet, it still might, be okay to use. But in that case, I would roll them all again. But that's like one little situation where I beat myself up over, is like, how is that supposed to be played? Is it perfection I'm looking at, or is it fun? Because if I just need the result of a die roll, a red die, if I just need that result, okay, if I haven't used it yet, why not use that roll, right? Why not use that roll? Instead of re-rolling it all again just for another roll. So, I mean, I guess you could do either way, but sometimes I beat myself up over that because I want to play it correctly. But you see where I'm going with this? It's such a non-factor. As long as you get a result, a fair result off of that die to see where the puck goes, that's all you need. So do you roll again or do you not? It's not really clarified in the rule book. So again, am I looking for perfection or fun? Can I just look down and say, well, I haven't used the red die yet. Shot's out of range. I'm just going to use that die instead of rolling again. Save myself some time. Some people would say, oh, no, you got to roll it again. And other people like, why not? And there's been a little debate, when I talk to people about that. And some people say, no, you have to roll again. And other people said, why not use it? If you haven't used it yet, it's not like you're cheating here, because you haven't used that die roll. So, but I guess as long as you're consistent, I guess if you say, here's how I'm going to play it. Okay. If I roll it and it's not in range, I will use that red die for my rebound. As long as you're consistent, I guess you're fine. Or if you say, no, I'm going to always roll again, then always roll again. And don't look at the die and see where the rebound's going to go to a better guy. Just be consistent with it, Let's get back to the chat room here. And Sean says, he goes, I go for fun. He goes, there are times I try to be a stickler. That's a good word, Sean, stickler. That's the word that was eluding me tonight, stickler. But it can slow down the game. But most of the times I play, most of the games I play are not complicated. Fun is the number one goal. Okay, I do like that, stickler. That's the word I was kind of looking for. Do you want to be a stickler about playing games 100% correctly or not? And Barbara likes the Mets visor. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of visors. I think it was over Christmas. There's this one place I go to. They sell baseball equipment, and every now and then they have like the $5 or $6 visors on sale, and I'll grab a whole bunch of them because I like my visors, and I like to wear them when I play the games here, and I'll wear them for the team I'm playing. Glenn stops by. Anton Baker, he says, I really get mad at myself if I make more mistakes when I'm tired. And I make more mistakes when I'm tired. I did it in a game last night, but by the time I realized it was too late, I had to go on with my error. Now, Anton, here that's a good point to make. And here's something that other people have brought up. Okay, you're playing the game, you make a mistake, and you continue on, and maybe later on you go to Delphi or Facebook or wherever, and you ask, and someone says, no, here's how it's played, and everybody agrees that's how it's played, and you played it wrong, and you feel bad that maybe you cost a team the game or a run or a touchdown or a goal, whatever it is, right? Here's what a lot of people say that's a nice out on that. The official made a mistake. Okay, it happens all the time. Officials make mistakes. Things happen in the game. So if whatever game you're playing, let's just say you're playing baseball, and you screwed up, and it should not have been a home run, then you can say, well, the umpire called it a home run when it should have been a foul ball. They blew it, and that's a really good out. Okay, so you want to get it right. You didn't cheat. You didn't do it on purpose, and you're like, oh man, I screwed that up. And I've done that too. You go to bed and you're like, oh, I think I did it wrong. Or you're typing something on your phone, or you're on the internet, and you're like, yep, I played it wrong. Well, the out for that, what a lot of people say is just go with it, and just realize that the officials made a mistake on the play, and that's the result, and we just play it, and don't beat yourself up over it. So I think that's the good way around that. Glenn says, I don't play cards and dice anymore, just PC, so I don't have a lot of interpretation to grew up, I hope. Yeah. Just chalk up a lot of my accidental decisions to quirks of what's going on. Yeah, kind of what I was saying. It's just a quirk. It's, something happened in the game, a misinterpretation of the rule, the refs got together, this is what they decided, right or wrong, and just you play on. May have meant to pass the player X for a shot, but hit Y, and you play. I've done that too. I've hit the wrong button or did something. I was like, oh, I didn't want to do that. Oh, too late. And here it is. And you just kind of, you go on with it. The same like with Digital Diamond. When I've been playing my baseball in Digital Diamond, sometimes I don't know what the code is to get the play right. Like it's hit the center fielder throws out the runner going to third. And I don't know how to put the code in. So I put it in as close as I can get it, and it's the right fielder throwing out the guy going to third, okay? Statisticians, that would drive them nuts because they want to get it right. If the game said center field, the center fielder should get credit for the putout. Me, if the right fielder gets credit for the putout or the center fielder, it doesn't matter as long as the guy is still out, okay? I just don't really care that much, and when you're playing, baseball and you get hundreds of games for every team, so I don't know how many thousands of games that is that you're playing. It's not, to me, I don't look at defensive putouts. It's not that big of a deal for me. As long as he's out, that's the thing. It's an out and out and out. So, but that can happen all the time. And Anton says, is the problem that the people who write the rules know in their minds how it works? Yes. And I know where you're going with this. And right for that point of view, rather than the point of view from the player who needs explaining. That's exactly right. Because that's it. Because have you ever tried to explain something to somebody that you knew the answer to, and no matter how many times you explained it, the person just didn't get it because you know what to do, and so you start skimming over all the things that you take for granted because you know how it's done. But someone who's got a blank slate, you start giving them pieces of it, assuming they know what you do, and they'll never figure it out. I just ran into that. I was trying to do some work for a hockey team, and they sent me all this paperwork to do, and I filled out the best I could. And then at the end, they needed something notarized. I couldn't figure out what they wanted notarized, and I'm going back and go, "What do you need notarized?" And they sent me a PDF of a general PDF of what needed to be done. I read the PDF. I couldn't figure out. I says, "What do you need notarized?" They sent me the PDF. We went back and forth 5 times. All they did is send me the PDF over and over and over instead of explaining it to me. Okay, they know what to do because it's their office and they've done this a million times. I've never filled out their paperwork. I don't know what I needed to do, and that's what I said. I says, I don't know what you want me to do. Send me the PDF again. I go, why don't you send me the PDF 100 more times? right? If I didn't get it on the first 10, I'm not going to get it on the next 90. Okay. I don't know and they should have recognized that. They should have said, this guy just doesn't understand what we need from him. I should have called. What I should have done is called. Okay. So that's a little bit on me, but it's just the idea of it. It's like they knew, and you make a great point. They know what needs to be done. They could not convey that to me. And yes, I would agree with that. And that's why, Anton, that's why a good game developer will give the rules to somebody else that has not played the game and let them read the rules. And Ron's done that. Ron's proofread rules before. And then that person coming in from left field with no idea on how your game plays can read it and see if they can figure it out. And then if they say, hey, I'm lost because you didn't explain this, what does this mean? What does that mean? Now they go back and they can kind of, fill in the holes. I'm part of a Facebook group on I think it's like Print and Play Games or something like that. I forget what it is. Somebody there's all these people, and they're creating these little print and play games, just little stuff. A lot of them are free. And one guy says, "Hey, does anybody want to test my game?" I said, "Sure, I'll test it out." It's just a one-page printout, and you roll dice, and I think you stack the dice. It was some kind of a pyramid game. So he sent it to me, and I printed it out, and I'm looking at the rules, and I'm rolling the dice, and I was just like, "Okay, no clue what I'm supposed to do. I know I'm supposed to stack the dice. I don't know why. I don't know where I'm going with this. And what do I do next?" And I wrote the guy back and I says, "I'm kind of lost." I says, "I rolled the dice and I stacked my first couple of dice here on your pyramid, but what do I do now?" And I says, "The next rule says this," but he says, I'm not sure what the heck this means. It's like, do I take the dice off the board? Do I bring in more dice? And I had all these questions about, couldn't figure it out. So just a one-page game. It wasn't, it shouldn't have been that difficult. But he knew what he was talking about, but he couldn't convey that to me. And he really never got back to me. And I just ended up just not playing the game, and but I threw it away. It's like, well, I can't play it because I can't figure it out. And I was trying to be nice. I wasn't being a jerk. I was like, okay, what do we do with this? And what do we do with that? And I just had a ton of questions. And he just probably finally said, well, yeah, no, forget it. But yeah, no, like Anton said, people who write the rules, they know they've done this game from scratch, so they know exactly how the engine works. But how do you convey that to somebody? That's the other thing. There was actually a movie one time that people I knew had made a local independent movie, and they sent me a copy of it to watch, and I watched this movie, and I was completely lost. I was like, this whole barroom scene, it made no sense with the rest of the movie. And then this scene here where these two people are talking, it's like, I mean, I feel like they've cut a whole hour of dialogue out that would have made this scene made sense. And they're like, oh yeah, they cut out this part and they cut out that part and they cut out this part. I said, well, that's the problem. Is you cut out the guts of this movie. So when this scene come up, that would have made sense if we all saw what happened before it, and the relationships and who broke up with who, and they're meeting at the bar and it was awkward, we would have known why. And I says, as far as the movie goes, it says, it sounds like if you saw all the footage that was cut out, it would make sense. But as someone who didn't see that footage, a lot of this didn't make any sense whatsoever. And so now Anton says that there are a couple of games where I wrote the rules out again for myself so I could figure out what's going on. I'm about to do that with Apple Hockey. As much as I've played Apple Hockey and I'm kind of good at it, if I don't play it all the time, I always have questions. And one of the questions I was looking for the other day, that just off the top of my head, for some reason, I just drew a blank. And it was like, what happens if the puck goes to an open position on a rebound? And a lot of times it's a face-off, but sometimes it's a re-roll, and other times it just goes to the other teams, especially on a power play. But APA doesn't have a table of contents. And that rule, it's in the rule book, but it's in there somewhere. And it's like, I remember reading about that. Like, what happens when the puck goes to an open position? You got to go find it. So I thought about creating a table of contents for Apple Hockey. So even just for myself, and I would obviously share it, that for certain situations, like what happens on a penalty shot? It's in there, but it's mixed in with other things. What happens when the puck goes to an open position? It's not all by itself. It's in with a whole bunch of other things. And sometimes they'll cover something once and then you won't see it again. And so it'd be nice to have a table of contents so you could say, oh, okay, puck to open position. Oh, yeah, perfect. That's it. Instead of flipping through the rule book and having to read the whole rule book cover to cover till you stumble upon what you needed to do. So I'm probably going to do the same with Apple Hockey, just kind of as a refresh for me and to clarify some things that that are just, it's like I say, it's almost like all the rules are in there, but they just, they stirred them all up and now good luck finding it. It's like, oh my gosh, but yeah, no, I hear that. Cleveland baseball fan says, Anton, I get that feeling every day when I leave comments about something that I've done. 007 coming by. Thanks for coming by. And 007 says, that's how I feel when it comes to ground balls to me an inside pitch. I take my time and read through the play very carefully. Yeah. Yep. And that's what I had to do with payoff pitch. Okay, now I'm getting them all mixed up. Payoff pitch, yeah. Payoff pitch, as I've told the story a few times. When I first played that game, I loved it. It's like, oh man, this game's great. Love it, love it, love it. And then for some reason, I didn't play it for a while, and I went back and I pulled out the rules, and I'm going through it, and I was all confused. And I didn't know what to do with guys on base and this, and it drove me nuts. And I was like, why all of a sudden do I hate this game? I played this game, I bought some seasons, and now I just feel like selling them because I don't want to play this game anymore. And then I sat down and I said, why? Why is this, Dave? Well, when I went through it and looked and researched everything, thanks to the Replay Gamer who refreshed my memory, Payoff Pitch did a rules update. Okay. And they had some different ways of doing things. Not saying they're better or for worse or much different, but they were different. So what I was doing is I had the old rules, I had the new rules, and I had the fast action cards. So I had 3 ways of potentially doing this. And I needed to settle on one. So what I finally did is I sat down, I think I threw the old rules out and I said, here's the new rules. I'm going to stick with them. And these are the options I'm going to do. So some people say, when you get a hit, you just flip the fast action card to tell you what the run is due. That's one way of doing it. The other way is if it's 2 outs or a wheelhouse, everybody gets the extra base. And then if it's what's the other one there? Oh, I got to look it up right now. The other 2, it's patient or in play. That's what it is. If it's patient or in play, then you flip the fast action card, and then anything else is just 1 base. So once I come up with a way to do that, and I don't want to say I wrote my own rules, but I figured out between the new rules, the old rules, and a fast action card, I figured out exactly how I wanted to play it. Now it's a piece of cake. And the same with the double play. I couldn't figure out the double play for the life of me. And I finally sat down and read it and figured it out and said, oh, okay. I look at the lowest number, and if it's below that, it's a double play. If it's above that, it's man at second. And if it's 11 to 12, it's at first base only. Got it, So there was a lot of things in payoff pitch that I struggled with. But once I sat down and sorted them out, now I really like it. And again, am I playing it perfectly? Probably not. There's probably things that I'm probably doing wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be flipping the fast action card. Maybe I should be doing something else. But again, am I looking for perfection or am I looking to have fun? The way I'm playing it right now is very fun. And I think if I'm not playing it, correctly, I'm pretty darn close to a point where I'm not wrecking the game or wrecking the game experience. Okay. Now, if I said, geez, everything, I'm going to, go 2 bases on everything, well, then that's not how it's designed, because if you flip the tough quality for the pitcher, that's supposed to be, if you get a hit off of that, you kind of fought something off and you're going to flare that in. And, that's barely a hit, where if you get wheelhouse, you smacked it. And, everyone should get the extra base. And then the other 2, the in play and the patient, that's somewhere in between, wheelhouse and tough. So that's kind of a mixed bag. So the fast action card will determine that for me. That's the way I play it, and I really like that. And so I've sorted that out, and I'm good to go with that now. Let's see over here. Glenn, I missed that it was 4th down and gone fart backed up in my own end, and the other team kneeled down 4 times. Yep. Yeah, we've all done that. It's just like, oh, that was yeah. But again, Tom Brady did that one time. It was 4th down. He didn't realize it. You get caught up in things, whatever. So I mean, again, that's just stuff you say, oh well, screwed it up. We had a brain fart, fog on the brain for that moment there, and we move on, and you just treat it as part of the game. As long as you didn't do it on purpose and you're trying to game the system or game the game or make your team win, things like that, it's perfectly okay to make mistakes when you play and not play it perfectly. And if you had fun with that, that's the great thing about it. So that happened, and maybe they went for it. Maybe they try to fake it. Maybe they were playing. I don't know. At some point, they decided, hey, we're gonna go for it here on 4th down, and no one's gonna expect this. It's happened. So that's when you just you write your story. With that as part of the story. That was a big gamble that they lost. Maybe it was okay, you screwed up, but you write that story as we went for it and we didn't get it. And if you got it, that's a huge momentum builder. So that stuff can happen. Andrew coming by. Hello from Louisville. He created the NWSL for Dice United. Thought I made some mistakes while learning the game and creating the teams, but the main thing is to have fun. Yeah, I've tried to create teams and players myself, and I've screwed up miserably. I don't like to do that anymore just because I screwed it up. I tried to make some teams in Stone Cold Hockey, and I made them and sent them to somebody, and then they kind of tweaked them a little bit, so I think they made them a little bit better. I didn't know what I was doing. I just was just kind of flying off the seat of my pants, just trying to make a couple of teams and have some fun with it. And I didn't, I wasn't able to play test it. What they do is, when they do a season over at Stone Cold, they drop it in the computer and they simulate that like 1,000 times to see how close they come, and then they tweak it. So I didn't have that luxury when I created my teams, but it still was kind of fun. No, where else? Where are we in the chat room? And then Glenn says, explanation to what does it work when I know what to do all the time? Yeah, I mean, it is hard. I mean, think about it. I remember when I was a young kid, I took guitar lessons, and the guy was explaining the cycle of fifths. It was called, where it's like A and then D, then G, then C, then B and F, back to C, or whatever that cycle is. So he gave me some homework, and I wrote down and I did all the homework, right? And I went in, and he goes, "Yep, you did it right." And I go, "Great. What does it mean?" Well, it's a cycle of fifths. Great. What does it mean? Well, you did everything correctly. That's great. What did I just do? I didn't know what it was. He couldn't explain it. He could play guitar. He was pretty good at it, but he couldn't explain to me what the hell I just did. And I was just like, I think I'm wasting my time with you here because you just can't teach. You can play guitar really well and you know your stuff, but you can't teach me. You're just not teaching me because you can't explain this. So that's kind of what it was, is that, sometimes you can be really good at something, but you just can't convey that to somebody. I mean, look at Tiger Woods has a golf teacher. I don't know what you want to call him. Golf pro, golf teacher, golf coach. Who the hell is good enough to coach Tiger Woods? Right? Why isn't that guy or girl out on tour ripping it up? If they could show Tiger Woods what to do to make him better, why aren't they out there ripping up the courses, right? Well, maybe that's their thing, is teaching, that they can kind of help some of the better people play a little bit better, but they just can't do it themselves. So in that situation, it's the opposite of someone who can play really well but can't teach. It's like they can teach really well, but they don't play really well. So it's kind of the opposite, And Sean says, user acceptance testing, smoke testing, not acceptable. Yeah. Yep. And Glenn says, I think it would help game developers to write out flow charts before writing out the rules. Yeah. Stone Cold Hockey had a flow chart. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to figure out that game. But when they had the chart that said roll the dice, and then I'm like, do I roll the 20 sides again? Or do I just, because some games you roll the dice once and leave it there. And so, again, that's part of my assuming, okay? when I say that I don't like to assume or whatever. There's some games you roll the dice and you don't touch them. And I made that mistake years ago that I would roll the dice and then you're not supposed to touch them and I'd roll them again. And then people say, no, you're not supposed to touch them. I was like, what do you mean you're not supposed to roll again? Bob, I need to get some fresh results. No, the game is designed to roll the dice, do something, and then look at that same dice roll and do part B of that. And so in Stone Cold, I'm like, do I roll this dice again? What do I do? I'm not sure. And so they had the flow chart, and I don't know if they modified it when I said that or if it was already in. I don't remember. But I think they did modify it. I think that the flow chart did show that you had to re-roll the dice, not use the same dice roll. And so so getting back to what Glenn said, they had a flow chart that I could see exactly the what you're supposed to do with the dice. Season ticket baseball, someone has a flow chart. They show you exactly what dice you're supposed to be rolling for certain things, so you never have to guess. Am I rolling 2 dice? Am I rolling 3? Am I rolling 4? Am I rolling the red? Am I rolling the blue? Season ticket does a good job of that. And flow charts, and then so they can see and make sure that they're covering all situations. Yep. TOC is such a big deal. 15+ page rule books is a must. Well, here's the thing about that, John. Sometimes a big rule book can be an obstacle. We've talked about obstacles before, that you go to play a game, and the more things in your way, the less likely you are to climb that obstacle. Again, the old joke about you remember the comedian that was talking about all the people going west, and they're like, some people got to the Rocky Mountains. It's like, nope. But the people from California and Vegas stuff, they went right over the Rocky Mountains and continued on to the West Coast. But that was the old jokes. Like, some people got to the Rocky Mountains and looked up and said, nope, I'm going to stop right here. And a big ass rule book, a long rule book, that can be a turnoff to some people. As much as it probably explains everything to the fine print, it can be a turnoff. Now, the solution for that is what Season Ticket did. Season Ticket by the way, they just released a new rule book that changes some things. Some things were kind of major, and other things were just little tweaks. But they just released a new rule book, and I think it was, with all the rare pages, it had to be 24 or maybe even 34 pages long. So I'm looking at that like, oh my gosh, really? That many pages? But the solution to that is they also have a quick start guide that's like 1 or 2 pages long. So you can play quick start basic game with just a couple of pages. Then, if you want to start getting into all the craziness, or if whatever it is that needs to be done beyond the basic game, now you have that. Now that's the way to do it. I like that because you can get off and running. We'll start the game. Okay, here's the basic game. Let's just get you playing the game and feel it out. Okay, so now you're playing. You have an idea how the basic game goes. Now you can pull out the thick rule book and open that and say, okay, what happens in this situation that's not covered in the basic book? Now you can dig into that. Okay, and I do like that. I do like how some games do the basic rule book, and then they have the advanced, if you will, or whatever it is that covers what's not in basic. So that is a way around that. But Hockey Bones, I got to tell you, when I saw their rule book and I saw all the symbols, I put it aside. I printed out a couple teams. I read the rule book, and I was like, nope, put it away. And then it wasn't until one day I sat down and said, damn it, I'm going to read this rule book if it kills me. And I sat down one night and make sure it was quiet. I had nothing going on. I read it, cover to cover. And I was like, son of a gun. A lot of this makes sense. And I suppose once I get it on the table and start playing, the other stuff will kind of fill in. And it did. But initially, that large rule book, it kind of turned me off. So I think they could also deal with a basic rule book with just a page or two to say, hey, let's just get started on the game. And then if you really want to look into the deeper stuff, although Bones is probably a bad example because Hockey Bones doesn't really have a basic and advanced mode. It's really kind of like one mode, so to speak. It's not like you can play an easy mode and then a hard mode. It's just kind of one game, but there are some games that could use that. P-Jet coming by, my good buddy P-Jet. I'm a little baffled with Apple Hockey now because I have the actual rules and 2 sets of alternative charts and rules from 2 different people. Yeah, you want the I have the big book. Where is it? I got it sitting right here actually. So this is and that's I was just talking about that with payoff pitch. Okay, is that I had two different sets of rules and fast action cards and it was messing me all up because I was like, well, what do I do? I get this tells me this and this tells me and I was confusing myself because I says I remember reading this, but now I'm reading this and it's like and I was mad, but yeah, that's the big one that I got. Okay. And this has got all the charts and all the rules in it. So that's what I use. Okay. The big one there. So that's what, I do have the older one. Apachata, I think it was, sent me the old rule book and a couple of older teams. And that one, it was okay. But you know what I was missing? I was missing the face-off chart and I was missing a couple other things. So he didn't, either he didn't send me everything or I was missing something. But when I ordered the new game and I got all the pieces in and I had everything in front of me, then it started to move for me. So I was like, yeah. So that got going. So make sure that you get you just pick a book and stick with it. I like the big book here. Okay. And there's just so many I am going to do at some point. I will do that. I will do a table of contents for Apple Hockey because things are just mixed in there and you got to go digging for it. And sometimes you just want to say, what happens when the puck goes to the open position? What happens on a power play? What's the, how many numbers do I go up on a power play? Okay, I'm going to add 2 on the power play. What happens on an empty net? Little cliff notes for that. But you got to go digging for that stuff. What about a penalty shot? What about this? So I'm going to create just for myself a little table of contents that'll basically say what happens on this, and I'll be able to write that out. Let's see, Joshua here. He had to rewrite the hockey bones rule book for himself to make sense of it. To be honest, I have to write recipes to be comfortable cooking. Yep, that makes sense. Robert comes by as well. Good to see you. Yeah, the bones rule book. They, like I say, I picked that apart a little bit, and they made some changes to that because I had brought up some things that they said, yeah, we could make that a little bit clearer, so there's no confusion. Is how that was. The big part of Hockey Bones is just start playing it, roll the dice, and look at what's on the card, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. The hardest part of Hockey Bones is probably remembering to do the block shots. That's one thing I always forget to do is checking the block shots and trying to see if it is blocked and the whole bit. But for the most part, that game it's fairly straightforward. It really is. I got to say that. And oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, Sean says I really enjoyed the flow diagram of Stone Cold Hockey. Yeah, wasn't that good? Wasn't that good when they did that? That was so good, because it made so much sense. It's like, okay, yep, I roll the dice. If this, yes. If this, here, and it was one page, and you just follow that, And even now and then, I sometimes I will have to go check that out because I haven't played it in a while. It's like, okay, what happens now? Oh yeah, I forgot that I got to roll. If I'm doing a what do they call it? Then if I'm not going to the battle chart, if I'm going for a control check, yeah, then I got to check that. Then if there's a intimidation roll or whatever they call that, you roll 2 dice, but you got to roll fresh dice. Yeah, so the couple of things were confusing, but that flow chart, piece of cake. All right, what else we got here? And yeah, hello, Bob. Yeah, he is. Yep. Anton also says, anyway, glad to contribute, but it's 1:45 here in the UK. Nice. Good to see you, Anton. Yeah, I'm going to be going to bed real early tonight because I got another full day. I got opening day tomorrow at the rink for my league. So I got to be up early and be ready to go for another 6 or 7 hours at the rink. Glad to see you're not alone. What's in your head? Yeah, that's why I like to come on and talk because, I bounce my ideas off of you guys and you guys bounce them off of me and we kind of all come to, some kind of agreement, hopefully, about, how we solve these issues. And they're not big issues, but sometimes even the little issues you want to talk about and, come up with ideas on how it's done. And thanks for coming by. And P-Jet says, Joshua, part of the problem with Bones rules is the lack of paragraph breaks and rule lines between sections. Everything runs together. They just released some new rules, P-Jet, that did help out because there was it was really kind of weird how some of the stuff was written. It's almost like they were cutting and pasting and then they forgot to take out parts. There was like, the second pass is this, and then they talk about the first pass after the second pass. I'm like, why would you do that? I know what they meant, and I get it now, and now I know what it is. But yeah, some of that stuff was really kind of weird, and still is a little bit weird. But the newest rule book that come out, I want to say it was May of 2022 or May of 2023. There's one that come out fairly new, and that one was written a little bit better. I think it did clean up some things, and Glenn says totally agree. There are so many homemade rules and changes to APBA football. Is it really APBA football anymore? Yep. But again, are we looking for perfection or are we looking for fun? And that's kind of what prompted this discussion here. Are you trying to play the game exactly how it's written? And you're not going to stray from that, and you're going to be a stickler, as someone used earlier. I'm going to be a stickler with this, or are you going to say whatever's fun for me? And there was a discussion, I think it was on Delphi, and people were talking about where the puck goes to an open position, and the rule for APBA hockey says to re-roll the dice and then get a different result, and basically you keep rolling until that puck goes to a position or something else happens. But the puck can't go to an empty position on a roll. Okay, at least on a play. Now I think off a goalie save, if it goes to an empty position, it's a face-off. Okay, I think that's what it is. Now but one other thing. But in theory, okay, now this is the thing that comes up again. If you take this to the nth degree, if you kept rolling the same dice number and you kept rolling the same result, so you rolled interception by the center, and you're on the power play, the other team doesn't have a center, you're supposed to roll again. What happens if you keep rolling interception by the center? In theory, you could be there for 150 years if you kept rolling that same roll that ended up going to the center. Now, I know that the odds are against that, but in theory, you could. There was a golf game I played back in the day when I first started playing this hobby, that there was an infinite loop, at least that I could figure out in the rules, an infinite loop that you could keep chipping it over and off the green, that you could all day long chip. If you rolled bad, you would chip it over the green. And then you roll on that chart again. And if you rolled bad, you chip it over the green. And I did that a few times. I'm like, no professional golfer would chip it over the green 3 times. Maybe once, maybe twice. But at some point, they would lay up and put it in the middle of the green. And so I put in a little homebrew rule that basically said, if you chip it over the green once, I'm shrinking my results. Or I'm going to add or subtract from the number to take away from any more chances of going over the green. That at some point, I'm going to get it on the green and get it close to the hole. So I had to put in that in there. But in theory, you could have rolled forever. So just like the APBA hockey, in theory, you could roll forever if you keep rolling it back to the center. One other way to do it is what I suggested is that if it's intercepted by the center and there's no center, give it to the other center. Give it to the other center, and then he can have the puck then. So if it go, you can't give it to the other team because it goes to an empty position because they're short a guy. So maybe the other center swoops in and picks it up. So there's a couple different ways you could do it. Again, are you playing it perfectly? No. But are you having fun? Yeah, I think I'd rather kind of resolve that in one roll rather than roll 10 times and be sitting there going, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. Parliament, Big Ben. I keep giving it to the center and there's no center. I'm going to be here forever. Again, chances of that happening are not good, but, never zero. Never zero. No, man, this thing better not be coming back in my head. And Robert says, it's your game, play as you like. Yeah, that's the way it is. And that's kind of what we're talking about here is, are you playing this for perfection? Are you playing this for you? Are you playing this for somebody else just to say that you played it right? Because I know we all share our results. Let's just face it. We share what we play. And sometimes you'll share it and say this and people will be all over you, oh, what are you doing that for? And what are you doing this for? Because, that's not how it's played. And you screwed up the game because that shouldn't have been a hit. And that should have been this. And, the puck should have gone there. And the ball should have gone there. And just, so you feel a little pressure to play it correctly, Now it's different. And Ron and I talk about this. It's different if you're going to go play in a tournament or you're going to play with somebody else. Then you do need to agree on a set of rules. But when you're playing by yourself, are you trying to play the game perfectly? Or are you trying to have fun? And I think that's what we're discussing here tonight. Baseball Maelstrom comes by. Thanks for coming by. And Rob says, I was thinking about talking to Glenn. I was thinking about second season football. I wonder if this happens in all sports games, it seems, or if it happens more often in football games. Now, one thing I will say about second season, one of the hurdles I have for this game, and one of the reasons I shy away from when we talk about hurdles, there's a hurdle in this game that keeps me from playing it. And it's the idea of I never know when to go to the backup player, because not everybody plays every snap. So when do I go to the backup? I mean, do you got to keep track of that manually? So if you get the running back in there for 3 plays and now it's a pass play, is that same running back in there blocking, or do you have a different back in there blocking? And how do you know that? So one of the things that confuses me is that, when it says, are there any, -1 rated players in the backfield? How the heck do I know who's out in the field? Do I just assume it's always the starters every single play? If that's the case, why have backups? Why do we have any backups in there? I mean, is that just in case of an injury? So that's the one, because football, like I say, I don't know a heck of a lot about football, but that's the one thing about that game that I shy away from playing it because I don't know what to do with that. And I don't like to go in there saying, well, I'm just going to ignore all the backups. Well, that's like, in hockey, I'm just going to play one line and not play anybody else. And some people have that with hockey. I don't know when to bring in the other guys. I don't know when to change, when do I change lines? And that could be a problem. So that's the one thing with that game that kind of drives me nuts. Now, again, am I looking for perfection, or do I want to have fun? I could just play the starters and probably have a heck of a lot of fun with that game if I didn't worry about that. But I do worry about that. I worry about playing it correctly. And I worry about, doing something wrong. And I don't want to do that. I want to play it correctly. And I don't want to just assume that all the starters are in. So, do I just do it that way and have fun with it? Or do I try to play it correctly? I don't know. And we came off a Super Bowl. One team that admitted they didn't know the rules. I heard something about that, but I didn't follow up on that. I didn't really read on what that was because again, I didn't like either team in the Super Bowl. So call it the Dan Campbell effect as a Lions fan. Yep. And Thespian comes by. He bought Red, White, and Blue Racing from Play and has been learning it. I keep assuming he must be doing something wrong because it seems too easily. He's probably watched 20 tutorials. I played that game. It turns out that it is easy. Okay. And you like the hat. Yeah. I like to rotate my hats. I have Red, White, and Blue Race. I played it a couple times. Don't know if I played it 100% correct. A lot of the times it is easy. The one thing that screwed me up with that, and again, because I didn't play it enough to really kind of learn it all the way through, was the heated rivalry thing that was in that. As far as like rolling to see who's challenging what, that made sense. And I could, guys that were out of the race and guys moving up and down, that all made sense. And I did that, and that was fun. But every now and then you'd roll for like a heated rivalry thing, and I never really quite grasped how that went. And but so that's the only thing that screwed me up with that. And the other thing is that I'm not a racing guy whatsoever. So a lot of things didn't make sense to me because I wasn't a racing guy. Even though I still played the game and had some fun with it, there was a few things that if I knew more about racing would probably make a little bit more sense. The guitar store is hilarious. That's a true story. I 16 years old, and the guy's like showing me how to do music theory. I'm like, that's great. I got it right. I got 100 on the test. What does it mean? What do I do with this? And he couldn't explain that. I still don't know what it means to this day. But if he had said, hey, well, the idea being that if you play C, then you go to A, then you go to G, that's kind of how you create a song. Maybe if he explained that, oh, okay, And I had a physics teacher whose standard answer to questions was, it stands to reason. Yeah. Yeah. Your wife needs a flow chart to communicate with me. At least she's communicating with you. you know? I remember I took a class in high school. And I was a whiz in high school, especially at math. And I got in this one math class, and I couldn't follow this teacher. I just couldn't do it, and everyone else was okay with it, and I couldn't. And it probably was me going through a bad time as a teenager. Is what I look back at this now, because I failed. I failed the class, and this was math. I'm a whiz at math. Couldn't get it. Just couldn't get what he was saying. And he would give me the homework, and I would look at it and be like, no, I have no clue what you just taught me. And I would just say, I don't get it. And that was the honest to God truth. I don't get it. You explained it. You showed it on the board. I don't get it. Now, other kids did. So, however he said it, they got it, but I didn't. And then when I went into a different class, 98 average, 98. I was so good in that last class that when fourth semester came, the teacher come over and goes, "You got your homework?" And I says, "Nope." He goes, "Well, you're going to get a 0." I says, "If you give me a 0 here in the fourth semester, I still pass with a 78." That's how good I was at math, because my average was so high, I couldn't fail. And the teacher actually looked at me and says, "You're exactly right, Dave." But he goes, and then he whispered, "Just for the sake of the other kids, could you make it look like you're trying so they don't give up too?" And I looked at him and I said, because you said that in a nice way, yes, I will. I will not try to show you up, and I will not try to, make a mockery out of the class, even though I could have. And it was nice about it, and I was nice back, and that was good, you know. But again, it comes down to who's teaching you. So when we come down to the rule book, that can happen. Like I said, I would love to rewrite the Apple Hockey rule book. In fact, like I said, I'm probably going to do that. I'm going to probably just come out with if not rewrite the whole thing, just come out with a table of contents, that'll explain what happened, because everything is kind of mixed into that rule book. And I don't know why the Hockey Bones, the new rule book, everything's just table of content. It's like, block shots, rebounds. What? Okay, let me just flip right to rebounds and explain it. Flip right to block shots. That's what you need to do. Because you come up to a situation like, oh man, what? Shoot. What do I do here? I forget. Drawing a blank. Rip it open. You don't want to be reading the whole rule book to find something. You want to get a table of contents. You really do. And Keith Helinski comes by. Thank you, Keith, for coming by. If the Niners would have listened to the ref, he explained it well. I imagine so. DJ John 4444. Thanks for coming by. And he came on to listen to the latest D&D and said, "I got me live." I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, especially with my cold. I keep coughing, so I got to go to the mute over here. I'm gonna have to go to the doctor next week. This thing's not going away. And I hope to catch up all the videos during the 3-day weekend. Yeah, I've been playing a ton of hockey. I was gonna play some hockey today, but my day didn't end. It started at 5 and it went all day, and I'm just too tired to play. So I want to come on and say hi, talk about this thing about playing it correctly, and then I'm going to go in bed and I'll listen to some other people on YouTube tonight. Joshua says, at PJ, yeah, some formatting corrections would help with Hockey Bones playbook, but rewriting also helps me think things through completely. Yeah, I took the Hockey Bones rulebook with me to the showcase last weekend when I did 8 or 10 games in 3 days or whatever it was. And I would just pull it out between periods, and I just sat and I read it from cover to cover. And there was some things that I picked up on that I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And the more you read it, see, the thing is that now I can read it, and now I know how to play the game. When I read it, it's like, like, oh, didn't pick up on that little nugget, And so there's a little nugget that I picked up on. It's like, oh, okay, now it's good to know that, that on a power play, if something like this happens, and this is what you do. It's kind of neat, because again, the toughest part about a hockey game is the penalties. Just how they handle them and what happens with the extra man. It's so different from the regular game sometimes. So, but yeah, so I just keep rereading the rule book, and I find new things in there. And I just printed out the new rule book too that they updated, so that was pretty good. And okay, to be clear, if your rule book is 15 pages or longer, a table of contents should be required. Yep. And PJ says he has a new Apple book. He's referring to some of the homebrew mods. He gets hung up because he wants to use them. My two biggest things for APA are the individual ODAI, okay, where you roll an extra die and you see who you're going up against. And what's fun about that is because so instead of just, you're going up against the team defense, if your right wing has the puck, okay, and you roll the die and it says, okay, you're going up against the opponent right wing. Well, they're on opposite sides of the ice. Well, who knows? Maybe that puck come to the middle and he comes up and this guy pinched up on him because the center was over here covering. So you get a different matchup. So now you get right wing on right wing, which doesn't normally happen. But in this situation, as you know, players go around the ice, the puck goes in all different places. People don't just stay in their lanes in hockey. So what I like about that new ODAI is now I get anybody can match up against anybody. If it's the right wing against the right D, well, that means he's in deep behind the net. Maybe he's battling with the guy behind the net. So anything is possible. You can go up against any player on the ice at any time in hockey. You don't necessarily have to be, over here like that. Now, in Hockey Bones, you are locked in pretty much. When you're checking team defense, you're checking the guys on that side is what it is. But with APA, with that ODAI, that doesn't. The other thing is the penalties. I just go to the Mike Berger chart on a penalty. I never did figure out how APA does penalties. I think you're supposed to roll dice and try to find out who gets the penalty, but you could be rolling all day. And if I read it right, and I still didn't get it, and I was like, something, just get one roll, we're done. That's my penalty. And the same with the assist. I'm not going to roll all day to try to get in range again, because in theory, you could be rolling all day and be rolling, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and no one has that for assist ratings. So why do you want to do that when you can roll once? And that little assist card that I found that someone had made, that works perfect. It's weighted toward the better guys, and but even the goalie can get an assist. And I have rolled goalie assists off that chart, and that makes it super fun. I think Barrasso got an assist that day. Let me see over here. And Fenner. Good to see Fenner back here. I like the ease of use of Stone Cold Hockey's rules. It's also laid out well. The new newsletter talked about a baseball game in the works. Yeah. Yeah. And did you see in the newsletter, he's just like, I wanted to stay away from baseball games because there's so many of them. He goes, but I'm going to give it a try. Maybe it could be a good time. Sean, thanks for coming by. I'll be wrapping up here soon. I just wanted to come on tonight and talk a little bit about that. But yeah, what were we talking about? The Stone Cold, the baseball. I wonder how that's going to be. I do, because the Al Wilson come out with his fast hitting baseball. I'm like, how is this going to work? And it worked pretty good, and I enjoy it. I do. I haven't played it in a while, but I do enjoy it. I really do enjoy that game. And Rob Scott comes back and says, Glenn, the guy's still playing Stats Pro football, playing something held together with duct tape, paper clips, and epoxy. Yeah. That's an old one there. Those Status Pro games are old. I have the hockey. It's okay. It's just kind of a shoot fest for me. I just don't feel like it's doing a lot of hockeying, but it's kind of a, it's fun. It's okay. I've played it. Tried that back in the day. I was overwhelmed by it, Main thing in any discussion about this or any other topic, to quote the hockey guy, yeah, don't be a D. Yep. Yep. I started watching him. You know what I like is when he does the redraft videos. When he's like, okay, we're going to redraft the 84 season, and he lists all the first round picks, and then he goes, here's what should have gone now that we know who's good and who's bad. That's kind of fun watching that. I really do enjoy that. But yeah, just again, it's your game, your way. If you want to give everybody a home run on your team, that's fine. There's kind of game in the system there. But I think most people play it, try to play it correctly the best they can. But I guess what I'm saying in this video is we don't have to sweat it. We don't have to sweat playing a game 100% correctly. Are we striving for perfection? Or are we striving for fun? If we can play 90% of the game or 95% of the game correctly, then there's a couple things either we don't get, or maybe we play our own way, or we decide that this is the better way to do it, then do it. Just do it and have some fun with it. And my name is Mud Comes By. I just got the Fast Action cards, the second season today. I was looking into them. The next time I order from Play, I think I'm going to get them. I do want to get back to football. Right now I'm in a hockey mode, as you can tell, and I'm playing a little bit of baseball as well. But I will get back into football at some point. Between second season and Saltair Pro Football, I'm dying to play something. And Glenn's got to get back to his 79 Cup playoffs. Phillies and the Rangers going at it. Yep, that's pretty good. Yep, it's the same by to Sean. And math is why I majored in communications. Of course, I'm in data analysis. Strange. Yeah, I love numbers. I do. I'm a human calculator for the most part, or at least I used to be. I'm really good at it. I remember when I used to go into my tax guy, and I would sit there and we'd be reeling off numbers, and he'd be punching in the calculator, and I'd be giving him the totals. He's just like, "Oh my gosh!" He goes, "You are exactly right." He says, "I know my numbers. I'm good with numbers. Not much else, but I am good with numbers." And Rob says he's a copy editor. Grammar police. Yep. Nice. Nice. All right. Take care, Rob. Yeah, I'm going to be wrapping up here in a second, but I want to come on. Like Uncle Ron says, once you roll the dice or hit a key, it's all fiction, but it's our fiction. Yeah. So what do you guys think? As I kind of wrap up here. We try to play the games correctly, but some people are just sticklers for getting it exactly right. And I think if you're trying to get it exactly right and it drives you nuts to get it exactly right, I think that starts to sap the fun out of the game. Because I found that like when I play APBA right now, APBA hockey, I'm talking about, I I've dumbed down the game a little bit and I'm enjoying it so much more. I'm still using the rules, except when it comes to penalties and assists. I just, I got a faster way of doing it, but I still count the penalties and assists. But that game is so smooth right now. It is buttery smooth for me the way I play it. And I'm not playing exactly as the rule books say, but I'm probably 90% of the way there. I follow the charts and I follow the play and I do what it says. But just when it comes to a couple of things that I thought ground the game to a halt, I found ways around that. And now the game just continues on. Hockey Bones, I didn't have to do that with. Hockey Bones is pretty self-explanatory. When it comes to APBA baseball, I got my own way of handling pitchers, as I do with every game. Every game handles pitcher fatigue differently, and I haven't really found one that I thought was completely awesome. Excuse me. So I kind of use a little bit of every game. It's like, oh, I like this, and I like this, and I like this. And a lot of times I just go on gut feel. And again, for me, that's perfectly fine. And my name is Mud says, I try to play games close to correct as possible, but I don't beat myself up if I mess up here and there. And that's a good way to end this right here. That's right. That's right. Don't fret over that. Play it, again, you want to play the game by the rules because that's how it's designed. But sometimes this, you make a mistake or you're not sure about what to do and you make something up and you continue on with the game and it's still fun and that's what matters. So I'm going to jump out here, folks. I'm going to go, because I've been coughing my head off here off to the side. So I'm going to go see if I can get some sleep, see if I can feel better. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. I'm not sure. I am doing a game Sunday. I got to remember to go Sunday. I hope I don't forget. But I got a Sunday afternoon game. But I do want to get back to some more APBA hockey and Hockey Bones. Again, 1-1A. And I got to write out my comparison so I can do my comparison video. That's more of a fun thing than anything else. I still don't know who's going to win that. And not that anybody needs to win that race between those two games because they're both fantastic as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, yeah. So what are your thoughts? Are you striving for perfection? Do you have to play the game 100% correct? And or are you okay with playing it mostly correct and just having some fun? So let me know. Let me know what you think. I'm Dave, and I will catch up with you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.